And finally, we're back at work onto making the mould. So this is prepping the paintwork, going through the different grades of paper. So I'm not too bothered about the actual finish of the mould. I just want it to be nice and shiny so that the release would be a lot easier. I wasn't too concerned about pinholes and actual surface finish. And the reason for that is because the final part is going to be sprayed. So I'm not trying to get a part that comes out of the mold that's, ready to go. The whole car will be sprayed right at the end of the clear coat. So scratches and that kind of thing is really not a problem. What was important was just to get the panel as flat as I could, and then surface finish could be addressed at a later stage. So here I'm just polishing it up, as I said, just to get a better release, to make the release of the mold a lot easier. You can see in a few places I've burned through, but yeah, that's not a problem. So the next thing I needed to do was to put a parting board on all the way around. This parting board was a little bit narrow. I would have liked it to be a little bit thicker, but I already had it to hand. So I thought, well, let me make use of it. Ideally, it would have been about 100 millimeters, 10 centimeters wide. It just makes it easier to apply the tacky tape when you vacuum infusing. But this is, I'm not going to be making a lot of these parts, so I thought, let me just go for it and get it done rather than just try and go and buy more of these PVC strips. The PVC actually works really well because it releases super easily, and it's just a really easy material to work with. So the thing with doing this parting line is to make sure that you glue it on nice and strong. There's nothing worse than starting to make your mold and your parting board's coming loose. So make sure the hot glue gun is up to temperature and that it glues it sufficiently strong. Garage cleanup, getting rid of all the junk. So if you're thinking about painting your garage black, I would advise to think about it twice because you need a lot of light. But yeah, anyway, back to the back panel. So the next step was to start applying the release wax. You need at least, I would say, minimum of 3 coats. I think I applied 5. Wax on, leave it for 20 minutes, and then buff it off. So yeah, repeat the step like, I would say, at least 5 times to be safe. A few years back, I made a mold and I applied the PVA using a spray gun, and it went down beautifully. So the idea is to spray down a very light mist coat and then to keep applying coats on top of this, and eventually you end up with a very uniform skin. And yeah, things didn't go to plan. It was just taking too long. Even though the airbrush was working great, but applying very fine mist, you can see how it dulls the surface. So I changed to a touch-up gun, and I think I just didn't wait long enough between coats, and it started to form little almost like droplets, and I just ended up resorting to a brush. I didn't want to start all over from scratch, but the battery on my camera died, so I don't have any video of that. It's time to apply the gel coat. So I'm just mixing up small batches because there's a very short pot time on this, only a few minutes. You just got to make sure that you mix the stuff properly. So the way I've always made molds is to apply the first layer of gel coat relatively thin. When I say relatively thin, I would say under 0.5 millimeter thick. And my theory for this is you avoid having trapped bubbles and voids in the gel coat. I'll also go over it with a blowtorch, which then removes all the trapped little bubbles that will pop. And then my second coat of gel coat, I tend to put on quite a bit thicker. And here I start applying the second coat. So I leave it for, I would say, a minimum of half an hour, probably more like 45 minutes with a specific product, so that it can gel. The reason for that is you don't want your fabric to push through the gel coat and then you get fabric print through on your mold. So leave it to gel until it's really tacky. This is just a simple little touch test. So here the gel coat is still too soft. You can see a little bit comes off on my finger. So I probably left it for another, I would say, 10 minutes there, I think. And then we started applying the first layer of just clean epoxy, the whole part, just soaking it down with epoxy. And then my layup, I started with a very light glass coat of, I think it was 80 grams, 86 grams for the first layer. I think we did 2 layers. And then I started with a layer of 4-ounce fiberglass cloth. And then there were quite a few places where there was a sharp angle, and then I just started to fill that in with a mix of cotton flocks to make like a putty, and that just filled in all the sharp angles, which made it much easier to apply the heavier fabric over the top, which was a 400 gram biax. I applied 4 layers of 400 gram biax, and then a single layer of 300 gram unidirectional carbon, and then another layer, 4 layers of 400 gram biax fiberglass cloth. So it's not a very thick mold, but it's more than strong enough to make a few parts out of it. So I've just started taking the parting board off, knocked some of it off, and about to start taking the mold off. Let's see how it turns out. Looks pretty good. I'm super happy with that. So now I'll just wash off all the PVA, and that'll reveal what the mold really looks like. So the PVA being blue leaves a lot of these lines and streaks, but once that's washed off, then I'll see where all the defects are. I'm sure a lot of them can just be polished out of the mold, but overall I'm very happy with it. I think it looks good. Came out really easy. Yeah, let me get this thing washed and we'll see how it looks. And that concludes another episode. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye.